They adored them, sang their songs, taped their posters to bedroom walls, memorized every move. To the world, they were stars, glittering, iconic, untouchable. But to a select few, they weren't idols. They were objects, possessions, fantasies turned flesh. And when obsession slips its leash, admiration curdles into rage. Tonight, we're not talking about scandals, not the usual Hollywood sins. Tonight, we step into something colder. The moments when fans, the very people meant to adore, became executioners. These are the stories of celebrities killed by their own fans. John Lennon, the voice of peace, silenced by obsession. December 8, 1980, the Dakota, New York City. John Lennon, former Beatle, cultural prophet, a man who sang of peace, of imagining a better world. He stepped out of his limousine with Yoko Ono by his side. Behind him, a fan waited, not for an autograph, not for a handshake, but for history. Mark David Chapman had built his entire life around Lennon, his music, his contradictions. At first, he worshipped him. Then he decided Lennon was a fraud. He clung to the Catcher in the Rye like scripture, scrawling his name as Holden Caulfield, convincing himself Lennon was a phony who had to be removed. That same evening, Chapman approached Lennon. Lennon signed his Double Fantasy album. A photograph captured it. Lennon smiling politely, Chapman lurking in the background. Hours later, as Lennon returned home, Chapman stepped from the shadows. He raised a revolver and fired 4 shots into Lennon's back. Lennon staggered inside, gasped, "I'm shot," and collapsed. At 11:15 p.m., he was pronounced dead at Roosevelt Hospital. 40 years old. A voice silenced by a man who mistook murder for meaning. Chapman didn't flee. He sat calmly, reading The Catcher in the Rye, waiting for police. Later, he admitted the truth. He wanted fame. He wanted to be somebody. So he killed one of the most famous men in the world. Christina Grimmie, a life taken at 22. Christina Grimmie didn't sing for fame. She sang for connection. Born in New Jersey, she grew up on YouTube, recording covers from her bedroom. Her voice carried into millions of homes. By the time she reached The Voice in 2014, she already had a devoted following. She was real, kind, approachable. Fans didn't just admire her, they felt like they knew her. But for Kevin Loibl, a 27-year-old Best Buy employee from Florida, that bond twisted into delusion. He convinced himself they were soulmates, believed they played games together, believed she was secretly reaching out to him. When reality shattered his fantasy, when photos appeared of Christina with another man, he snapped. Loibl transformed himself, whitened his teeth, got hair implants, changed his diet. Then he bought 2 handguns, hundreds of rounds, and a hunting knife. His plan wasn't love, it was ownership. If he couldn't have her, no one would. On June 10th, 2016, after a concert at Orlando's Plaza Live, Christina opened her arms at a meet and greet. She smiled and reached to hug Loibl. Instead, he pulled a Glock and shot her 3 times. Her brother Marcus tackled him instantly, but Loibl broke free. Pressed against a wall, he turned the gun on himself. Christina was rushed to hospital. At just 22 years old, she was pronounced dead. Tributes flooded in. Adam Levine paid for her funeral. Selena Gomez wept on stage. Fans built memorials. Her family launched a foundation. Her music still echoes. But the voice behind it was silenced by a fan who mistook obsession for destiny. Rebecca Schaeffer, Hollywood's brightest star cut short. Rebecca Schaeffer wasn't just another actress. At 21, she was on the brink of something bigger. A sitcom hit, My Sister Sam, a reputation as wholesome, approachable, real. She was even auditioning for The Godfather Part 3, a role that could have defined her career. But to Robert John Bardo, she wasn't an actress. She was an obsession. He wrote her letters. She once replied with a signed photo. To him, that was proof. Proof of intimacy. When he saw her in a bed scene on film, he felt betrayed. His fantasy shattered. Adoration curdled into rage. For $250, Bardo hired a private investigator. Back then, it was legal to pull addresses straight from DMV records. Armed with a .357 Magnum, he flew to Los Angeles. On the morning of July 18, 1989, he rang her doorbell. Rebecca answered kindly, asked him not to return. 2 hours later, he came back. She opened the door again. He shot her once in the chest. She collapsed inside her doorway and died moments later. Her murder shook Hollywood. It exposed the dangers of stalker culture. It forced California to pass the first anti-stalking laws in America. It led to new federal privacy protections. Rebecca's life was stolen by obsession, but her death rewrote laws that have saved countless others since. Selena, the Queen of Tejano, stolen by betrayal. Selena Quintanilla wasn't just a star, she was a force of nature. By her early 20s, she had Grammys, she sold out arenas, she became a fashion icon, a cultural icon. She was weeks away from global superstardom with her English-language debut Dreaming of You. And then came betrayal. Yolanda Saldivar, once a fan, then president of Selena's fan club, then manager of her boutiques. But behind the scenes, money went missing. More than $30,000. Selena's father confronted her. She was fired. But Selena, compassionate to the end, still met with Yolanda to retrieve financial documents. On March 31st, 1995, at a Days Inn in Corpus Christi, Selena met her one last time. As she turned to leave, Saldivar pulled a revolver and shot her in the back. Bleeding, Selena ran, a 392-foot trail of blood. She collapsed in the lobby. Before losing consciousness, she named her killer. At 23 years old, Selena was gone. The world erupted. Over 60,000 fans attended her funeral. Her posthumous album debuted at #1, the first ever for a Latin artist. Her story became a film, a legend, a warning. Yolanda Saldivar remains in prison, eligible for parole in 2030. But no release will undo what she took. Owen Hart, a performer who gave his life to the fans. Not every tragedy is born of obsession. Some happen because entertainment demands too much, because spectacle asks for danger. Owen Hart, one of wrestling's brightest stars, beloved for his athleticism, his humor, his heart. On May 23, 1999, during a WWF pay-per-view in Kansas City, the unthinkable happened. Owen was set to descend as his alter ego, the Blue Blazer, lowered by harness from the rafters. But the harness malfunctioned. Before a packed arena, before millions watching live, Owen plummeted more than 70 feet. He struck the ropes, then the ring. The crowd thought it was part of the show. It wasn't. Medical staff rushed in, but it was too late. At 34 years old, Owen Hart died in front of his fans, giving his life for their entertainment. Unlike Lennon, Grimmie, or Selena, Owen wasn't killed by obsession. But in a way, his death reflected fandom itself. A performer risking everything for spectacle. And in the end, he paid with his life. His widow, Martha Hart, still fights for his legacy, ensuring he's remembered not just as a wrestler, but as a husband, a father, a man who loved his craft. These aren't just tragedies. They're lessons written in grief. Lennon, Grimmie, Schaeffer, Selena, Owen Hart, all gone, all too soon. Some murdered by obsession, one lost to the demands of spectacle. Each story reminds us, fame can lift you to the heavens and then drop you without warning. If you're still with us and you want more truths Hollywood buries, subscribe to Dark Celebrity Truths. Because the spotlight doesn't just create stars. Sometimes it blinds them to the danger just a few feet away. Fame hides everything until it doesn't.